Hello everyone, thanks for joining us here on Horizon. I'm Rob McClendon. Well, by definition, globalization is the free movement of people, goods, and capital. Since World War II, export-led growth has helped hundreds of millions climb out of poverty in the developing world, while also raising the wages of those who work at exporting firms here at home. Yet, thanks to changing economics and the politics that surround it, there's a growing backlash against free trade. And nowhere is that more evident than with those that make a living making things. Manufacturing plays a vital role in Oklahoma's economy, especially when it comes to exports. And that is where we'll begin today by examining the double-edged sword of globalization. Capitalism can be cruel.
Is to move production from our facility in Indianapolis to Monterrey, Mexico.
This video shot by one of the 1,400 workers learning that their $23 an hour job is moving to Mexico, where workers there will make $3 an hour. A harsh reality reflected in this year's presidential election.
Mexico makes so much money off of the United States. They do not treat us well.
Inconsistent on so many issues, Donald Trump is clear on one. Unfair foreign competition destroys jobs at home.
We're being decimated by China, by Japan, by every single country that we do business with.
A sentiment that is reflected in the polls of Trump's most ardent supporters. 60% believe globalization lowers domestic wages and costs American jobs.
You know, the working class has really shifted from people who made stuff to people who serve or care for people.
Tamara Drott is the author of the book Sleeping Giant: How the New Working Class Will Transform America. And while not a supporter of Donald Trump, she understands many of his supporters' frustrations.
The wages have really fallen off the cliff. My dad used to make 17, 18 bucks an hour. Today, you know, the new working class, think of it as the Walmart worker making $8, $9 an hour.
Resulting in U.S. household incomes staying relatively stagnant for the past 2 decades. Between 1999 and 2011, America lost 6 million manufacturing jobs. And while conventional economic wisdom suggests these workers will move into other sectors of the economy, a new report argues otherwise. According to analysis from a White House think tank, in the U.S., 1 in 6 working-age men without a college degree is no longer in the workforce, meaning they're neither working nor looking for a job, with 1/3 of these long-time unemployed now living in poverty. Some of the latest numbers I've seen show that we are at the lowest labor participation rate that we've had since I was a kid. Is that a result of the just lower prospects that maybe the working class has?
I think the lower labor force participation rate is happening for a couple reasons. One, we still have the effects of the Great Recession. You know, we still don't have enough jobs for everybody who wants one. And a lot of people just gave up and dropped out, and they're probably not going to come back. That's a huge problem. Going forward, you know, there's a growing concern that more and more jobs are going to be taken by robots. We're already starting to see some of that, where the people that check you out at the grocery store, there's fewer and fewer of them as we're all scanning our own groceries at the grocery or at the drugstore, and that technology is going to take more and more jobs. Driverless trucks, driverless cars is another example. So, you know, I think there's a new conversation about the future of work in this country and what we need to do outside of work to ensure that people can live in dignity and have a decent quality of life.
Yet many of the same factors that's led to such upheaval in our economy could actually be the pathway to more stable 21st century jobs. It's called localization, the flip side to globalization. So rather than have large, complex supply chains based on the cheapest labor, a new trend is for companies to create regional product manufacturing hubs. Case in point, ASCO Industries, the large Belgian aerospace manufacturer that in the summer of 2012 announced it was opening a new manufacturing center for the Americas in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Centrally located, fits really well, and the infrastructure and the transportation to be able to get where we need to be is perfect here. I mean, it's in the center of the United States, great highways. Even if you need to ship something by barge, you go to Tulsa and Port of Catoosa and go by water.
In Oklahoma, manufacturing accounts for nearly 10% of total state economic output, employing 8% of Oklahoma's workforce with an average annual compensation well above the state average. Manufacturing also plays a crucial role in our state's exporting economy, resulting in nearly $6 billion in exports of manufactured goods, with the majority going to our free trade partners.
Right now, Canada and Mexico are our two largest markets in the world. Our trade with Mexico, for example, is more than the European Union combined. It's more than all the BRIC countries, Russia, Brazil, India, and China combined. It is a very important part of our economy.
Jim Jones is a retired U.S. Congressman from Oklahoma and a former U.S. Ambassador to Mexico, and says the best way to grow an economy is with exports.
We can't consume everything we need to grow as an economy, so we have to get consumers elsewhere. The way you do that is to become more competitive.
In fact, exporting firms across a variety of industries are more productive, grow faster, and pay higher wages than their non-exporting counterparts.
What people don't really realize is that 95% of the world live outside the United States. That's a lot of customers. There's a lot of market share there that you surely can find someone that's going to want your product or your service.
Chuck Mills is the third-generation president of Mills Machine Company, an international custom manufacturer of earth drilling tools, and says businesses like his make up the lion's share of Oklahoma exports.
Every $1 billion of sales, 5,000 jobs are created. So that's a lot of jobs. So, we want to continue, and we're actually kind of a little shining star in the United States. Our exports grew where other states actually shrank.
Thanks in great part to the trade agreements that have been so widely criticized by both presidential candidates. So while threats of steep tariffs on imports may get the votes, in reality, protectionism hurts consumers and does little to help workers.
Think beyond Oklahoma, think beyond the United States, and think in terms of global economy, because your economic opportunities are going to prosper or decline based upon how well we do in a global economy going forward.
But globalization does have its flaws. While the great majority may benefit, some do lose out. While American manufacturing output has stayed stable for the past 4 decades, thanks to technology, fewer workers are needed to produce those goods. And it's those workers who have lost their jobs where our country often comes up short. The United States spends a paltry 0.1% of our GDP to retrain workers and help them find new jobs. And that's just 1/6 of the average of what other rich countries like ours spends on retraining to ease the transition into a new type of work. Now, a little later in our show, I continue my conversation with retired Congressman and former Ambassador Jim Jones, where we talk about a variety of subjects especially pertinent as we head to the polls. But first, when we return, we visit the last manufacturer of its kind in this country, which is going strong after 100 years.